One, and we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Oh my god, my English is gone, Bono. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another episode of the Breaking News Show. Today I am with my special, I would not call them guests, my special friends over here, Ed Spencer and Jay. Guys, how you doing? How you been doing ever since after the summer break?
Yeah, I'd like to see a win. If you can lift that curse, mate, that'd be great. Um, no, it's a good race. It was a good race to come back to, that's for sure.
How about you,
Yeah,
Eduardo?
not too bad. Obviously Zambor wasn't going to be a cracker like last year, but certainly wasn't one that was making me want to go off, make a cup of coffee midway through. So kudos to Zambort.
I mean, well, in all fairness to Zandvoort, last season it dropped one of the best races of the season. Like despite Red Bull Max dominance, but it was one of the best um, races due to, first of all, like you got Liam Lawson all of a sudden in the car, and then we had 4 seasons of the weather in one race in Zandvoort, and that produced pretty much a banger. But this season it's just like it just gave me 2021 vibe, like nothing happened. It's just smooth sailing. Like it's a boring race, I'll be honest with you, despite the start and everything. And you have Lando Norris who just, for the first time, like trying to prove a point that hey, I can do this. 20 seconds on top of Max. I think last time Max lost by that margin was in Saudi 2021 to Lewis, and that is something. Thoughts on the race, Eduardo?
Well, I don't think Verstappen has lost that badly since 2019, and even that was because of the car more than him. I definitely think it was more of a shift of the guard in terms of McLaren, and now I think they can sense that they can do this. They can go and win both championships, particularly with Norris, knowing that he's cracked that curse of making a bit of a sluggish getaway, but finding his feet through the race and then blitzing by Verstappen. It was very much a statement of intent from Norris and a statement of intent from McLaren. I think they'll be a little bit disappointed Piastri couldn't get past Leclerc in the closing stages, considering that there was a possibility that he could get past the Monegas, but at the end of the day, he spent too long behind the Ferrari, and Verstappen, well, second was really, all he could get. He did everything right. There's nothing he could have done better. It's just unfortunately the car looks like a bit of a handful to drive, and unfortunately, I
Yeah.
think Red Bull is still racking their brains over what is actually wrong with the RB20, because it's just not. It seems every race we go to, it just consistently gets worse and worse and worse and worse, to the point where if you remove Verstappen, my point my point is it would probably be the fourth best car on the grid. So that's
Yeah.
another kudos to Verstappen's talents. But overall, it was an okay race. It's considering that Spa was also okay and Hungary was a bit of a low key banger. I'll take it compared to last year where it was just ball fest, ball fest, ball fest, ball fest.
I mean, it was, listen, Borefest, Borefest, Borefest for you. It was a festival, festival, festival for our friend Jay over here. Every race is just
Yeah, yeah. That's
watching it, and just like lights out and we'll go crack one open. It's already in the bag, nothing to worry about. But I mean, yeah, I'll go ahead. Please give me your thoughts about it since you are the Max and the Red Bull fan. Let me know,
like,
please.
I touched on it last time we was on here, like actually enjoying the racing. Yeah, I'm a Max
Yeah.
fan, but I do enjoy the racing. But full stop. Like I'm a fan of the sport. It was nice to see Lando. Well, it wasn't nice to see anybody beat my driver, but I mean, man, Lando was locked in all weekend. Like it didn't look like it was going anywhere else. I mean, yeah, he had the bad start. He actually had the same reaction time as Max. He just didn't get away as quick or as clean as probably Max did. And then, but when he got in front of him, and you just seen the gap get bigger, 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 you're like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't anticipate the gap getting
It's
to
done.
where it got to, but literally within about 3 laps of him overtaking Max, I was like, yeah, it's done. It's game over on this race, unfortunately. So it was very much about just maximising what Max could do in that car, and he does that, excellently. And to touch on, what Ed was saying, without Max in that car, that the Red Bulls are going to be nowhere. So it's quite fortunate for them. They do have him who's able to wrestle whatever issues are with that car. I mean, that car has won multiple races at the start of the season, and I see there's loads of memes about the Brawn F1 car being there and all different talks about different things. But man, yeah, it doesn't seem to be how we started the season, and it is getting increasingly frustrating as a Max fan to be watching the car slowly. And it doesn't mean it's a terrible car, but to watch it not do what it was doing. I mean, the first race of the season was a 20-second margin, and now we're here, and it's like, okay, where do we go? How do they fix this? And I don't think they quite know what the right fix is. I think there was a little bit of talk about them using an old spec floor potentially, or not having the setup time in free practice, but I don't think that would have changed anything from the result. Lando was winning it as soon as he got ahead, and really on merit as well.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's one of those races when you sit there and you start like throwing some questions around, and you're like, when was the last time Max won? And that is something mad to say after 2022, and you think it's just, when was the last time this guy won, you know? And then you're like, when was the last time somebody dropped a 20-second on him like this? Because it almost feels like unheard of, you know? And yeah, there are only handful few drivers that can do that to Max on the grid. And I would say Charles, he did it in
Yeah.
2022 Australia, 25 seconds or something mad like that before the DNF. And you get Lewis multiple times in 2021. And I think I'm not gonna. I know a lot of people would want me to say Alonso, but again, we didn't see it. I'm talking about things we saw, and then you get Lando, and it's like, of all the time, and I know a lot of people that were giving him the stick for all the bad starts and for the many times we've watched him like having awful starts, and not just against Max, against anybody who's next to him, he've lost out on the start. But this time he made out for it. No head loss like Austria. Uh, just losing position. It's okay. You know, you have a car under you. When Max pulled that 1.5 second, I thought Max is gonna check out, and I was like, "Oh, the Red Bull really back." And then the car just started working with. No, the car did not start working with Lando. Lando was just doing consistent pace. Max was just pushing the car over the limit, but then you have tire problems at the end. So when he backed up, we saw how that lead disappears. If anything, I think, as you mentioned, Red Bull, the only reason Red Bull are where they are today is because of Max's great start of the season. It's also his consistency bringing as good results as he can. His biggest head loss and stinker this season would be Hungary. Otherwise, if he was just a little bit calmer, I'm sure he would have got more points than whatever he did. Do we think that he is and Red Bull are one DNF away in either constructors or drivers championship to turn the stable around?
It's in DNF for Max or DNF for Lando,
A
because
DNF
they
for Max.
either
For Max.
DNF for either
No,
one of them.
if it's a
changes,
DNF,
yeah.
I think if it's a DNF for Lando's, GG's wraps for Max.
Yeah.
But if it's a DNF for Max, then we have a whole different championship.
Oh, 100%. I think, Red Bull will have that on their minds. They have to execute a perfect end of the season. They have to maximize everything. I think you're going to see a lot more, tires, soft tires going on Max's car to get extra points here and there. I hope not. I hope they fix the car, is what I'm thinking. But yeah, the moment.
Ed,
I think.
since
Go on.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. No. I'll
No,
say what you want, and I have a follow-up question for you. Answer this one,
Um,
but the follow-up question would be once you finish this with this. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. Sorry, guys. I'm a terrible host. My brain cells are just banging in my empty shell, so I'm just trying to do my best. So, since you're a journalist, yeah, as I mentioned, is Lando one Max Verstappen DNF away from bringing himself into the championship fight? And do you think this whole shenanigans about Red Bull, uh, about Red Bull, the brakes and all this stuff. Is it something legit, or is it Red Bull just simply messed up with the upgrades?
So to answer the first question, yeah, I definitely think one DNF could swing this either way. McLaren definitely have the momentum on their side right now, and Verstappen's kind of having to do two jobs in one, which is to keep Red Bull alive in
Yeah,
not only the drivers but also the constructors. I know Checo had a
yeah,
decent weekend in Zandvoort, but there were even rumours going into the week before we went into summer break permanently that he was going to be a goner. I mean, that's no good for a team which is trying to defend both championships, having that insecurity over your second driver. So, yeah, I definitely think one DNF could change it, but there's also the fact that the next few rounds, Red Bull have been on the edge at times. Kota last year, Lewis pushed him all the way before the inevitable DSQ. Singapore, we all know what happened there, and the unbeaten run went down down the toilet. Las Vegas, Leclerc pushed Max all the way before inevitably he got by. So yeah, I definitely think this is Verstappen's to lose now, and he has to hope that car is reliable. Bearing in mind he also had taken on new parts during the season. It's going to be tricky for him, and that's the extra worry that will go into his head. The follow-up question: I don't really think the brake issue has been the biggest problem for Red Bull. I think it's been the discontent behind the scenes, particularly the power issues with Horner and Jos Verstappen, and also Helmut Marko as well. That's probably created a very unhappy atmosphere. And then when you see Newey going, well, the rumor is that he's off to Aston Martin. You've got Jonathan Wheatley, who has been the mastermind at turning Red Bull pit stops into the best on the grid, along with McLaren's, of course, going to Audi to become team boss when Sauber at the moment are having a pretty torrid season. It doesn't inspire confidence, and off-track matters always seep into the on-track product. Look at Ferrari, for example. In the 90s, they had everything at their disposal: test track, V12 engine, their own in-house V12 engine. They had Alain Prost, John Alesi, all this stuff on in front of them, and yet because they couldn't make a decision on anything because they were too busy arguing over who did this and who did that, and there was power grabs and God knows what else, they didn't win anything until Todd came along and Schumacher came in with him. So I think the brake issue is kind of a bit of a smokescreen. I think there is genuine issues behind the scenes of the team, which is not helping the direction.
um, I do agree when it comes to the power struggle in Red Bull, and I think nobody is stranger to it. I know there was a little bit of denial. I would not say denial, but there were just people who were they're like, let's not over speculate in this. This could be all wrong. This, and that, and then you start seeing it in the open. And the biggest example it would be Jos Verstappen, I believe, because that man have not stayed quiet for once ever since March. Yapping Yapatonian town in every article possible. That man, like when you're playing Among Us and there's this new role. Your job is to kick this guy out. That is Jos Verstappen trying to get Horner out in every way possible. His job in the game is get Horner out in every way possible and get people to rile up behind it. And I'm sorry to believe that Max is gone. He's out of Red Bull. I would not say this season. I think next season could be the final straw. If this stinky performance continues from Red Bull, I don't think he's staying there. And listen, Max made it clear. He's like, I'm comfortable with this. Like in 2023 specifically, like I'm comfortable being in the lead 20 seconds, 30 seconds ahead of everyone. I don't want any headache of close racing and blah blah blah. And it's not our problem that others did a bad job that we should slow down. And one thing I've read somewhere, and I'm throwing this to you, Jay, and Ed as well, that Horner said after Belgium, sorry, after Zandvoort, uh, Dominicali was asking them to slow down and not show the full pace of the car. And we're talking about 2023 and starting of 2024. And I'm not saying Red Bull sandbagging right now because there's no way in hell and chance they would. because they're on the back foot at the moment. Uh, do you think that's more of a business move from Dominicali and like, listen, we're losing a lot of viewerships and just tune it down a notch? Or do you think it's just Horner now is like trying to throw a hissy fit and just trying to blame everyone? It's like, well, look at us. We tried to slow down and help the company, and now everyone is faster than us. So you think that's what's happening?
I think if they were sandbagging or slowing down like they've been asked to, they probably would have came out of the summer break and made a bit of a, okay, we are still here. You know, you can't go that long without winning a race because you've
Yeah,
been asked to slow down. If you've got pace in hand, you're probably going to deploy it now and again just to show that you've still got it. There's no way they'd start putting championships in jeopardy for the show. And I mean, I'm not in favour with, you know, asking people to slow down and changing things to hinder other teams and this. I've never been a fan of that, but it wouldn't make sense for me to put the titles in jeopardy just for the show. I don't think Red Bull would do that. I don't think Horner would do that. But it's interesting that he comes out with things like that all the time. Yeah,
do you
that's all
think
I've got
he's
to say.
losing the team from under him
Like
at this
losing the
stage?
dressing room, it
Yeah,
wouldn't
like a
surprise me.
coach losing. Yeah,
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. You can't have that much drama go on in the background and people not go, actually, when I come to work, I want a bit of stability. I want a bit of reassurance. I want a bit of comfort, to want to be comfortable. I don't want to worry about my position. I don't want to worry about what's next going to come out in the news and get asked about it, blah, blah, blah. So it would not surprise me if that's affecting the on track stuff.
I
see,
will
I'm throwing.
chime in on. Oh, go on. No, go.
No, 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 no,
Go.
no.
Go.
Go.
No,
I have
I was
nothing to
going to
add.
chime in on that one. I think when I went to the launch in 20 this in February, when there was all the stuff kicking off around, you know, the Horner situation over the stuff he'd been sending to the employee, the mood inside the camp was very, very toxic. It didn't feel like a launch with a celebration of the team's 20th birthday. It felt more a bit like a funeral at times, I would say. And I think Jay raises a good point. When you go to work, you want to work in a positive environment where you can express yourself, not thinking, oh God, am I going to lose my job here? Or we're going to do this, go and do that. That's maybe a small reason why so many, of the key people, particularly also Rob Marshall, who went to McLaren last year, have left. And
Yeah,
there's also the fact that new challenges as well. Some people want to go and do something else, which is fair. F1 personnel change teams all the time. That's normal. But the way it's been going at Red Bull has been quite astonishing. It's almost been a bit like what Benetton was with Briatore back when they lost Schumacher. They were on top of the mountain, then all of a sudden they all started leaving in droves. But Briatore made the fundamental mistake of telling Benetton employees, we will be fine without Schumacher, don't worry about it. And they won the grand total of one race in 5 years. And I can see Horner's kind of gone down that pathway a little bit, in the sense of, oh, we'll be fine, don't worry, we can win this championship, no issues whatsoever. And it's looking a bit
copium.
risky now. I won't say copium, it's more a bit of rallying the troops, but there's a herd of horses coming the other way, steaming angry.
You know, one of the things about I was thinking about this in more of a deeper thought. Uh, you British people don't have a sense of friendship, you know. I'm just kidding, but I'm just what I'm trying to say is, hear me out, hear me out. What I'm trying to say, and listen, uh, there's something I appreciate in the British culture specifically, is that when something is wrong, it is obviously wrong. And as much as people would hide it or something like that, it's like, say, like a group of friends, but like, listen, we're not going to talk about this in public, but I'm out. Okay. So that's already an indication, you know? And the fact that so many, yeah, as Ed mentioned, you've got people like Rob left, and then you have Newey. I think that's the biggest bomb uh, left, and then you have people rallying out, and even F1 fans like trying to show support to that engineering team. Yeah, they can do it. They've been winning, and It's not just one man, it's a whole team. And yes, there's a whole positive thing, but then on the other side, when you see in the reality, things are not panning out exactly how they were supposed to be. So the whole circle about that environment, it just looked off from the beginning of the season, as you mentioned. And it didn't matter how many years they've been together as a team. It didn't matter that they came into F1 as a joke. People like, what the hell is this? Can F1 team? What is this? What do we need to be doing? Recycling team right now? And then boom, they're winning championships. And none of them even cared about that whole, oh yeah, but we build a legacy teams. Like, no, I care about my self-esteem. I care about my image. I care what people would be perceiving me. You are who you are with at the end of the day. So a lot of people cared about that. Now, since we're talking about team principles, I really don't wanna. I'm gonna leave McLaren to last, but I wanna bring Logan Sargeant. Has the eagle has landed? No more freedom, unfortunately, and no more drones to discover oil, sadly. And yeah, thoughts quickly. Any of you? Go ahead, Jay.
Well, first of all, without being rude, it is quite literally damage limitation. Um, I, F1's a brutal sport. Everyone knows that. And for me, like I was quite vocal on the weekend about how much I like James Vowles, how much I think he's operating correctly, and how much he put the team in a good position moving forward. With Carlos Sainz coming in next year, Albon's there, Logan not doing very well. They've got a couple of benefits from bringing in, this new driver. One, they can see in the time they've got left of the season how they fare with developing a driver. He's clearly made a mark with the team. He drove after Abu Dhabi end of last season, and he drove free practice in Silverstone, didn't he? So they've clearly had an insight of how he would operate within the team. So why not? Teams have got rid of drivers for less, and teams who make these kind of bold, big decisions tend to
Nick
reap
DeVries.
benefit. Yeah. Tend to reap the benefits of it. It's nice to see that Williams have put sport in merits first and made the decision. Although it still is a brutal one. Look, nobody wants to be kicked out of their lifelong dream, and Sargent's had a decent background career to F1. It just hasn't happened, and I can't help but think, like, to Williams, crash damage values will have massive impacts to them. They can't afford it. So no, why not have a driver coming in that's a bit consistent, won races, got podiums, back up to Albon, change. His job moving forward now he's in the shop window, isn't he? He's got to find himself a seat. He's got an opportunity to earn a seat next year if one comes up, or reserve driver role. But yeah, for Williams, it's damage limitation, isn't it?
Eduardo, be honest with me. How long you've known about this? I'm just kidding. Your thoughts about the move, and do you see it as the right time, or was it just a rushed decision?
It's a classic case of the Piranha Club. You swim or you get eaten. And unfortunately for Logan, he got eaten. I think the beginning of the end for Sargent was Australia, when Williams basically told him, you've got to give the car to Alex. That was a sign in my eyes that they didn't really have the confidence in him to go and get them points. It was also a sign firmly that Albon was the breadwinner for that team, and that Sargent was kind of there as the second driver. I think he had a lot of potential. The first race he did in Bahrain was really good, if my memory serves me correctly. But the problem is he never really kicked on for me. He had the odd flash of brilliance. I can remember in Vegas he qualified really well, and I think Zandvoort he got Q3 appearance as well. But then he blew it by crashing and added more damage and more damage and more damage. And when you have a massive upgrade package and you bin it in FP3, you cause massive amounts of damage. The team are working through the nails to get him ready, and they don't do it. I mean, he's going anyway as well, so there's no. It's not like he's in contention for season 25 at Williams. He's going. Carlos is there anyway, which I should add is a very good statement of progress from Vowles and Williams to get a guy like him who knows how to take teams from who've been relatively struggling and taking them back to where they belong, i.e. McLaren. But I think the timing is a bit ridiculous, if I'm being honest with you. I think they should have said after the summer break or in between, they should have said to him, look, this isn't going to work. We'll give you a couple of races at like Austin and Vegas to fill it out, but we want to test out other drivers. And now, Franco's got a chance of a lifetime. If he performs really well, bearing in mind, it's not just like a one-off deal. He's got the remainder of the season to show what he's capable of.
8
He could
races, something
easily
like that.
Again? Yeah, 8
Is
races.
it
And
8 races? Yeah.
yeah, and granted, he won't know some of the circuits, but I think if he does a good job, he could easily land C. It's going to be difficult because there's only one seat really available, and that's the Audi drive. And currently, it's like a bit of it's like the amount of candidates for an Audi. So you'd be thinking you're looking at a queue for a Taylor Swift concert. So it's not going to be easy, but I think he's got a chance. He's got a chance. Sorry, since we're topical, Oasis tickets. So yeah,
There we go.
I think I don't expect him to get points right off the bat. That would be rather foppish to think it straight away. But he's a good driver. He's done pretty well in F2. He's ahead of Kimi Antonelli. He won
Yeah.
a pretty good sprint race in Imola with that ballsy move at Tamburello, which is a place which you don't normally pass at. I don't see him being a complete flop. He will struggle at first, as I've said, but
The thing,
I think it's not something where you go, oh my god, you've gone from frying pan into the fryer. It's a decent call.
What I thought was really nice. Sorry, quickly just to jump in on that one.
good.
I don't know how factual these are, but the little rumours that they potentially could have had Schumacher, they potentially could have had Liam Lawson. What I really respect about Vowles is he went, no, we're going to go to a Williams Academy driver and we're going to bring one of our drivers into our seats. And I just thought that was a real nice touch. And I think that would be like, anybody who's looking for a junior or an academy seat would be like, hold on, Colapinto did end up going into F1. James Vowles brought through their own academy drivers into their own seats rather than getting one on loan and, taking care of somebody else's driver. So I thought that was a real nice touch from James Vowles as well.
Also, I want to add to what you said. I have something to criticize a little bit on James, but I can see the both sides of the story. It's just his comments are a little bit not matching with what he's doing. First of all, Logan Sargeant came to F1 because of James Vowles, and James wanted that, American slash American driver slash American exposure slash American sponsorships and all of that. So before anybody even blames anyone, like, okay, you're the first one to bring Logan into that seat. It's not how did he bring him, it's the matter of when. You brought him when he's not ready. He won a race in F2 and all that, all looked good, but like you rushed him into a seat. The first season, when you saw everything not looking great, you should have not renewed with him one more season. I respected his statement at the start of the season when he said we wanted to trust Logan and give him a chance. He had a bit of a bad luck here and there in last season. True. But why did something must have fallen off between the two that the decision came mid-season? Because if we compare the Williams car last season, it was constantly in many occasions scored points, and I know mostly it's Alex who did that. He scored 1 point of Lewis and Charles' disqualification quota. It was a nice thing also for him because like it's his home Grand Prix and he got an F1 point, sorry, a championship point in his home Grand Prix. Yeah, but then it was a whole decision coming back to Mr. Valves. If anyone should have made the decision, it should have been him. So I think something between the lines this season, something must have been went bad. I don't know what it could be that just made him flip 180 from this supportive dad kind of figure in the Williams for both drivers to F you, I'm your drunk uncle, you go do your job, you get out of my face, you know? Yeah. And the other thing in the statement that he released, and he said, like, we're trying to minimize the damage about like the season, and we are trying to score more points. But again, I'm happy for Colapinto, and I agree with you. He did the nice touch by bringing a Williams Academy driver. But then you put this kid, you could possibly put this kid under a lot of pressure. Because from F2, sixth in the championship, and he is going under a little bit of pressure going with some talents in F2 to now dropping him straight into F1. I don't think he's ready, but I hope he does well. And you could either ruin his career completely because you rushed him again. You did the same thing. You're rushing somebody to a seat, ruin his career into the seat. And I'm not expecting him to score points, as you mentioned as well. I don't see how he would be out there just be fighting for points unless he pulls some great performances out of nowhere. Even that, I don't think it would grant him the seat because, hint, hint, we've seen the same with Nick de Vries. He came in, qualified in Q3, scored a point, and everyone's like, oh my god, the next Max Verstappen teammate. And then what happened?
Yeah, it disappeared, did
We
it?
all saw what happened. You see? So yeah, all my wishes is that Colapinto gets a great run in this last 8 races. I hope it doesn't ruin his career. And if somehow does, I think Williams owe it to him to help him do whatever he needs to do with his career. Because you're the one who put somebody who's not ready for the city. Even Kimi Antonelli, who we all saying, oh my god, this kid is talented. He says, I don't think I'm ready for F1. So when somebody with that talent says something like that, it tells you a lot. And this is coming from a kid who tested 5 different F1 cars. I'm talking about Kimi Antonelli here with Mercedes. Go ahead, Ed.
You've just made me realise that I wrote that if de Vries does well AlphaTauri, he could form an all Dutch dream team with Verstappen at Red Bull. Not one of my best legs in the world.
Classic
no.
British bias.
I definitely think I was drinking too much Christmas Baileys at the time. But first and foremost, I will correct you. It wasn't Valls who brought him in. It was Jos Capito. Like Jos Capito raved about this guy in 2022. He raved about how good he was, and ideally, you would have given him an AB another season F2. But of course, there is that case of leaving them in the series for too long. Look what happened to Teo Porcher, for example. I think Valls has come under a little bit more pressure than last season because obviously the rookie stabilizers are off, and now everyone expects Williams to consistently be up there fighting the likes of Alpine and Haas. But again, he's kind of openly said this year's going to be a transitional year and how he wants to change the mentality and the working nature of the team, which is fair enough. So he's going to be a little bit stressed. And when, you've got that debt mounting and mounting and mounting, you kind of lose faith in the person you're dealing with and you kind of become a little bit more aggressive. Not excusing if he's got really, really angsty with him, because obviously I don't think anyone should be personally abused just because they made a mistake at their job. I mean, that's just human nature. But I think the problem is with Logan, there was a case where it was just not getting any better. That's the thing. It just wasn't getting any better. Second season, you would have thought, oh, he would have ironed out these mistakes. But no, he didn't. Like, I think the qualifying record between him and Albon was pretty appalling. And that's no disrespect to either of them. It's just that, you know, the odd, most rivals when they're in their second season, they start beating their teammate, and he didn't. And I do think James Vowles was had every right to make the move, and of course, he might as well go in house. There is the other issue of the fact that Mick wasn't available because of WEC, and Red Bull had other stuff with Lawson, which could potentially link down to the fact that they're not sure about their driver lineup either. Everyone still is not sure whether Checo is going to stay or whether Danny Rick's going to go, or how they're going to fit Liam in, because Audi are still in hunt to potentially get his services for next year. Although, as I mentioned, there's quite a big list of drivers. So yeah, I think it's he had to make the decision, and he had to change tack for the sake of the team and his job security, which is perfectly normal in this profession.
Are we projecting that 2025 summer break and driver talks are gonna be the craziest we've seen in a while?
Oh,
Because
100%.
look at it. You have Liam Lawson, deserves a seat. You have Yuki Tsunoda, who deserves to be in a better seat, and you have Daniel Ricciardo. You're not sure even where he's gonna go, and I think this is just something to throw out there for Colapinto. I think James is just wants to tell him, listen, keep it on the asphalt, no grass, no walls, no damage. That's all I want from you. And he goes back to F2 and try to promote him to a seat in the future, because yeah, you guys saw what the kid can do. You can get him, and yeah, you have Sergio Perez. It is obvious that yeah, there's not much of an improvement from Checo, and I know a lot of people be like, what do you mean he qualified good? That's not the statement of qualifying good. His teammates was 3/10 of the pole sitter. Where was he? And not only that, dropping positions in the race and finishing behind some cars that started behind him.
Yeah.
On pace. So that is a lot to think about. And there are some races that, again, we're going to come to, and it's going to be like another spot for Red Bull where they're just nowhere. And he's going to be behind much further than his teammate. That's not going to help the Red Bull. So you don't know what Daniel Ricciardo will do. And then you have the whole Audi with Liam. So you don't know if Liam is going to go to Audi or he's going to take the Red Bull seat. I think there's a whole lot of a spiral happening over here. By the way, Magnussen, who's going to even... Hold on, who is the Haas lineup other than Berman?
Ocon.
Ocon! Oh my god, I completely forgot about that. It just feels so random, Ocon in a Haas. But yeah, do we think actually 2025 is going to be crazy? I think it's going to be crazy.
Certainly be different.
Mm,
I think it is nice as well to see an F2 driver make it into F1, whether the circumstances are as they are now, or somebody's come in on merit, or not saying Colapinto's not coming in on merit, but F2 is really competitive right now. There is some talent in that division. I've not always been one for following F2, but I find myself watching more and more F2 races, and it would be nice to see more of those young talents make it into F1 with secure seats. And it is exciting for the future of F1 in a whole anyway. There's some Dennis Hauger and them and Antonelli, just some ridiculous talents. It's actually wonderful to see. It's the best I've seen F2. It's the first time I've watched a proper season of F2. Usually I've got other commitments. I can't throw a whole weekend away to racing. But yeah, it's nice.
It's funny that in one of the seasons, sorry to interrupt you, I'll give you the mic, Ed. It's funny in one of the seasons where we didn't have a rookie. 2024, we did not have a rookie on the grid since, I don't know, 25 years, 30 years since the last time something like that happened. We transitioned from a season to another and there's no driver changes. And the way how it happened is mid-season. We got Ollie Berman, and then now we got Colapinto, which is, I think, is pretty funny to see. So that record is off the scratch with Colapinto coming. Go on, Ed.
I was going to say, yeah, there is plenty of good talent, but there's not enough cars. That's been that is the big problem at the moment. Not enough places, and yeah, there's plenty of F2 talent coming along who could make it. Well, Isaac Hadjar is currently leading the championship. I mean, he is a contender for a Red Bull back drive at some point. It wouldn't be surprised me if RB put him in because Helmut Marko is, a big fan of his. Gabriel Bortoleto has been linked with the Audi seat. McLaren Junior, very impressive rookie season. And then you've also got the Alpine Juniors, Kushmaini or Victor Martins, although those two are probably going to have to move on somewhere else because, let's face it, the Alpine Academy is kind of not known for its amazing results, even if Jack has got in. So yeah, I mean, F2's been pretty good this year, but the problem is that talent wasted, and I hate to say I think it is.
This is the thing, like if an F2 driver gets a shot like Colapinto's got and takes it, performs really well, when a team comes to potentially renew drivers, looking to bring a rookie in and have a bit more confidence behind it, it could be good moving forward for them as well. Because Lawson had his shot, took it. In my opinion, I thought he did brilliant for the races that he had with Red Bull. If Colapinto comes in and does a similar thing, you're like, hold on, let's stand up and take notice of some of these young kids because they're good enough. I think what you don't want is an F1 grid that's stagnant and drivers that are just occupying seats. And I mean, no disrespect to any of them, but some drivers are journeymen at times in their careers, and it's difficult to see them moving on. You just end up in the car for a bit longer than they should be.
I mean, you've mentioned something, Ed. You said, like, the problem is we only have 20 cars. There's so many talents here, 20 cars. And even with that, like, okay, this is just a personal take. I feel like Gasly, Ocon, Yuki, uh, Alonso at the moment. I mean, but no, leave Alonso aside. He already won championships, won races. Talking about Gasly, Ocon, Albon, and yeah, I feel like these three, they don't have the machinery they deserve. All these three have the talent to prove that. I think these three can win races. Ocon won a race. Gasly won a race. I feel like Albon was kicked out of Red Bull for much less than whatever we've seen with the current driver lineup on Red Bull. I'm talking about the second driver. It just feel like it is a little bit unfair, I'd say, to see them in cars like that. Like, you would love to see them up there in the front and see what they can do. But then again, I think they're just basing their future on praying that they can stay consistent, stay good, and somebody just like slip and they jump in a higher seat. I think this is the plan for them. But one last thing before we move out from the William. We know that Carlos Sainz is coming next season, and I think I've heard James Vowles mention Carlos Sainz more than he mentioned both of his drivers in 2023 and 2024. Like, ever since he signed him, it's like, mate, if you're dating, it's okay, you can say it. No one is judging. But like, it's like, I feel like Albon is under threat over here. I know it sounds strange saying that. Albon has a mission. He has to beat Carlos Sainz. Otherwise, Carlos Sainz is coming to that team to be the number one driver. And if that happens, he if Carlos beats Albon, I think Albon could be out. Thoughts?
It's not impossible, particularly if Carlos beats him handsomely. I know Alex is very much the team leader of Williams at the moment, and he's very much, been part of how they've gone from the
After he
back to
took
the
it from the
midfield.
GOAT Latifi.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't give Latifi a call up, if I'm being honest with you. That would have been quite nice. Been a very nice story if he'd come home. But yeah, I do. I think no driver's future is really safe at the moment. I mean, whether you're driving for the top team or the worst team, So, Alex can perform. Alex does a good job frequently for Williams. I mean, he did pretty well in qualifying. Example with P8 before, of course, it got rode back. So, yeah, I don't think he'll be feeling it too much, but obviously he needs to keep an eye on what Carlos does, especially if Franco's around. And let's say next season he bosses Formula 2, it could give Vales a bit of a headache.
I mean, what happens if Sainz steps into what is essentially Albon's team for the last couple of years and doesn't outperform Albon? Like, nothing's given in the sport. Like, and that's not me saying that that's going to happen. I think Sainz is incredible. I mean, I really
Yeah.
rate Sainz as a driver. What happens if he goes there and doesn't beat Albon? The same thing's likely to, well, that's the question I'd probably ask. Is it can happen both ways. Formula One is a very, very unforgiving sport sometimes. So both of them have to perform, really. I mean, Sainz is probably driving for his next move while he's at Williams. So he kind of has the pressure of that as well. So it'd be interesting to see.
I'll be honest with you. My guts is telling me Albon is going to beat Sainz. That's just a feeling. And I think it's going to come down to two factors. Albon, okay, Max aside, going up against Max as a talent or as a young driver, it's going to be always unfair, given that he's one of the generational talents we hear about. Albon against so many other drivers in that Williams, I think Albon is going to cook them. I'm not saying Carlos is going to be easy prey for him, but I think Albon is going to show everyone why he is one of the best drivers on the grid. And he's going to do that by, I think he doesn't have any option. Political wise, agent and all that stuff is not going to work because Carlos Sainz is going to come in stacked up. He got his agent, he got his dad, sponsors, a lot of things. What do? On track. If they don't arrive there and Williams be like, right, we're gonna listen to Carlos and see what he got from feedback, and we're gonna make the car a little bit around him, then that could change the equation. But if the car just out of the gate as is drive, I think Albon is gonna do much better. That's just my hunch and a feeling, and I think we could see it next season. I'm not saying Carlos Sainz is gonna perform bad. Just that's what I think.
I mean, what about if they both put the team first and they both
What?
drive? What about if they both put the team first? Focus on the development
I
of the
would
car.
love it.
Yeah.
I would love that. And I think Sainz is betting on 2027.
Yeah.
Sorry, 2026. Mercedes engine 2026. That's what he's betting on.
Well, he's in a position to observe and decide where his move is. If he's in a position to cherry pick seats, do you know what I mean? I hope it's the start of good things for Williams. I think they deserve a bit of success, and it's been a proper road back. Do you know what I mean? They've got they have probably got the best driver partnership next year, in my opinion, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to definitely be interesting. But both of them have the potential to drive for top teams as well, past Williams. So, I wouldn't want to see them go to war and start to take chunks out of each other. I don't think they're going to do that.
I don't think they're going to make it personal. I don't think they're going to get to the personal level. No way. I just think comes to competitiveness, Albon might do better first season.
Yeah, first season. Yeah, the teams. It's been there longer, isn't it?
What are your thoughts, Ed, on the partnership? You think it's going to be all frenzy or it could get a little bit feisty?
I think it'll be interesting, definitely. They have easily one of the best lineups on the grid going into 2025. But if the car isn't particularly great in 25, you could see some cracks there and then. But it's up to them how they manage it. I'm sure they're old enough and wise enough to sort out the differences. So you would hope that they keep it together, but you can't really trust racing drivers to always toe the party line. They're always out for themselves because at the end of the day, they're number one in their minds. No one else really matters.
I mean, I agree. I agree. I don't think we have much to cover, to be honest, other than quickly McLaren. I think 100% they got that. I'm gonna say 100% they got that constructors wraps. Red Bull needs a miracle upgrade, and I don't think they even have the space to bring one at the moment. Uh, do we think the driver championship is gonna go down to the wire if this trajectory of McLaren continues?
Trying to take some bias out of it. I think Max is going to do what he does. If he stays consistently where he needs to. I mean, Lando's not. I don't think Lando's going to win every race to the end of the season. I don't think that's going to happen. But if he does, and Max just sits it in P2, fastest laps here and there, I think Max is going to clinch it, isn't he? But it's like I said earlier, it's Max's to lose. It's not. Lando's got to do what he's got to do exceptionally well for the rest of the season and keep it up. He's not been in this position before, no, in Formula One, no disrespect to him. Yeah. There's going to be mistakes that get made. He's not been there before. And I just hope we see some nice clean racing and we don't see Austria's contact and Hungary's meltdowns. I hope this ends a real nice season with no controversies, none of that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think it's Max's to lose, like I said, and I think he'll do it. However, it's not going to be a comfortable ride.
I do think that. Eduardo, do we think it's going down to the wire, or we're gonna have fireworks along the way?
I don't think it'll go down to the wire. I think it'll get decided with two to go. And I think it'll be Max who wins it. I think Max just will do enough. I think, the way he is, he will drag that RB20 kicking and screaming to the front because that's just what he does. And I think as long as we have a good battle between these two, we're in for a real treat. I think what we don't want is a repeat of 21 where it was great for the first few races, and then it all kind of descended into a really horrific war of words and contact and all the stuff, which made everyone look a bit like a clown show. With the constructors, I think McLaren have him. I mean, with the way Norris is performing, but also Piastri, it's pretty much a done deal on that side. So that's the way I see it. And I think McLaren will win the constructors comfortably. There's no question in my mind they'll do it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think I'm happy to see that there's a lot of sense on everyone believing now that actually McLaren can win it. It's not like, oh my God, I care and I'm happy about it, but just like the trajectory just screams that. And also, thanks to Checo Perez is the reason why everyone can see that Constructor Championships is gone from Red Bull. If anything, before I end this, I think we all should stand up and give a salute, and we should all make a Hakkinen an apology because I was not familiar with his game. That man spoke in 2023, and we called him a madman. As Thanos once said, they call me a madman. And what happens? McLaren is exactly the team that brought the claws to Red Bull and about to take could take a championship from them, if not both, by some miracle. So yeah, never in my wildest dream would have believed that in 2024 this would be a case. But anywho, predictions for Monza quickly, and we end with it. Podium, give me your top three.
I think Lando's going to win again. I think that would be annoying, but I think it'd be. I'm just gonna do what you do with the curse, and just
I'm gonna reverse Ono on you. Just wait. Go ahead.
I don't know. I'd like to see Max win, obviously, but I think it's going to be Lando Max. I think he's going to be probably a carbon copy of what we saw, but with Piastri on the podium as well, if not a 1-2.
Eduardo.
I fancy a Ferrari win. I think they'll be really strong this weekend. I have a feeling Charles will win Sunday. I think Norris P2, and I think that straight line speed from the Honda power unit will get Verstappen P3 from Piastri.
So I went red. Now, mine would be, I'm gonna give you the real one and the jinxy one. Real one would be
Oh,
Charles 1, uh, Lewis P2, Lando P3. The jinxy one would be Lando winning, Max P2, Piastri P3. This is what I'm gonna go with. If both of if one of these comes true, oh my god, I'm gonna be so mad right now. People say, "Oh, you jinxed Lewis," but yeah, I think Ferrari could win this. I have a feeling that Ferrari is gonna win this one. And on this note, gentlemen, I don't want to keep you any longer. Thank you for being here with me, and to everyone watching, please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. We always go live, and the feed drops in YouTube and as well on X. And thank you very much, Jay, and thank you very
No
much,
problem.
Eduardo, for being here with me. And everyone, good night.